All right, friends, I think we'll get things started. And if people join late, that's okay. My name is Thaisa Hayes. I'm the manager of emerging careers here at WIF. I want to thank all the members of Black Member Forum who are here for this exclusive event that we were able to put together for you all. We're super excited. We have Andrea Wilson Mirza here, who's going to introduce our panelists and give you all a little bit more information about this Q&A. So I invite Andrea to come on now and take this over.
Thank you so much, Thaisa, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Wilson Mirza. I'm the director of ReFrame, which is a collaborative project between WIF, for Women in Film, and the Sundance Institute. We run several initiatives together, but one of them is ReFrame Rise, which is a program that supports mid-career women directors and now also mid-career women cinematographers. We have some amazing alumni of this program, which include one of our panelists today, Zetna Fuentes, who is a director on Black Cake, as well as our moderator today, who is in the current class of our ReFrame Rise program, the wonderful Angel Kristi Williams. And they will be joined by the creator and showrunner of Black Cake, Marissa Jo Cerar. I'm so thrilled to have this group. I know some of you have already had the chance to see some episodes of Black Cake, which is streaming on Hulu, the first, I believe, 6 episodes by this point. And Black Cake is based on the New York Times-bestselling book by Charmaine Wilkerson. It's a family drama wrapped in a murder mystery with a diverse cast of characters and a global setting. We are so thrilled to have Marissa Jo Cerar and Zetna Fuentes here to talk about the amazing show Black Cake, and the brilliant filmmaker Angel Kristi Williams will lead us in a conversation, and then we will definitely have time for some Q&A. So as I think it just popped up in the chat, you can use the Q&A button to submit any questions you might have for these amazing women. And we will look forward to just a beautiful time together this afternoon. So Angel, I will hand it over to you to kick off the convo. And thank you so much to all of you for being here.
Thank you, Andrea. Hi, ladies. So wonderful to be in conversation with you. I just finished the entire series in preparation for our conversation. So I have so many questions, and I'm going to try my best not to ask them all and leave some room for those who are joining us to chime in as well. But first of all, it was such an incredible watch. It's one of those shows where I think after I watched the first episode, I was like, I have to commit to the day, because I just kept hitting play next episode, even before, I would let a little bit of the credits play and then I would just click the button. So it was just such an incredibly written, performed, the cinematography, the music, just everything felt so cohesive and beautiful, and just every detail was so intentional. So I would love to just begin by just asking you, Marissa Jo, how did the project come to you? And then Zetna, I also want to know how it eventually got to you as well. So let's just start at the beginning.
Well, hi, and thanks for that. And thanks for all those kind words. It's all music to my ears, because it's such a process, finding a book, loving it, getting people to pay money for it so that you can adapt it, then selling it and picking a streamer. And the details, were so important to me. And so thank you for that, first of all. The book came to me as a manuscript before it was published about a little over 3 years ago. And it was through my feature agent, actually. And he sent it to me, and I read it, and I was driving across the country during COVID to scout locations for my first show, Women of the Movement. And so I had a lot of free time just sitting in a car, and I just read it front to back, picked up my cell phone and said, I have to do this, but this is not a movie. This is a series. I don't even know how you could go as deep in the layers and the nuance in 2.5 hours, or maybe 3.5 hours, depends how long you want to make your movie. But I knew that it needed to be, an ongoing series as well, because I felt like season 1, to get through the main, murder mystery storyline, it was really a launching point for seasons 2 and 3 and beyond for our characters' arcs. So I read the manuscript. I wanted to reach out to Charmaine Wilkerson, the author, and just gush over her amazing book and tell her, there's nobody else who can do it. It has to be me. It has to be me. This is so much of this stuff is very personal to me. I am adopted. The person who gave birth to me was at a home for unwed mothers to conceal her pregnancy. There are 2 people out in the world who have no idea that I exist. They are a brother and a sister. And we have Covey, who is a mixed race, teenager living in this little rural community in Jamaica, or this small community in Jamaica. And I was this mixed race teenager living in rural Illinois, and I just saw myself in her, and she's trying to find herself and where she belongs. And so I just told her how much I loved it, how much I understood it, and how much I would protect it. And then I brought it to the studio where I have my deal. We found out that Oprah and Harpo Films also loved the book, just by chance, just on a random, unrelated phone call. And then we all decided to come together and take it out.
I love that. I love that. I love that, immediately you were like, I'm the only person that could tell this story. And that it was so personal. I think that's so important when you take on such a massive project like this. Zetna, how did you, at what point did you come on? Tell me how you, got the script, met Marissa Jo, all of the things.
Well, it's been an amazing, amazing process. So Marissa Jo and I worked together many years ago on The Fosters. So we knew each other, and I was thinking about it the other day. It was one of those relationships that as soon as I met her, I loved her. I felt just like-minded. We shared so many of we had a similar sensibility. We just really hit it off on that one episode. And that was a while ago, and we stayed in touch. And to my amazement, Marissa Jo has reached out when she's been working on different projects, and we hadn't had an opportunity to work together until this one. And when she called, every time she calls, whenever she has anything, I just want to say yes before I even look at it, because I know it's going to be beautiful and thoughtful and written with such, just care. And so when this came my way, I just said yes to whatever I could do. And read the scripts, and nothing disappointed. The story was so beautiful. And then immediately I ordered the book and read the book. And then I think I called you, right? And said, I cried thinking about it. So much of it felt really, really close to my heart. Just like so many families, just full of secrets and full of searching for identity, and having a mixed family, and having a son, and having, so many threads in our life that we were trying to explore. It just felt really, really important to me to be a part of telling a story that meant so much. So
it was 10 years ago, almost like to the month. It was December, I think, December 2013 that we met on set.
You're coming up on
love that you know that.
Yes, I know.
That's
so
amazing.
Wow. I do that too. Like when I find collaborators that I just absolutely love, I want to hold on to them for like the rest of my life. I think that is so special. And I loved, just how personal this was for both of you. Like I felt it in the details while I was watching it, just in the characters and the way that the story unfolded. It really felt like there was just so much care given to not only the original material, but just the portrayal of how the stories unfold. I want to talk about adaptation, right? So I have a very unique experience of watching it because I hadn't read the novel at all, right? And I didn't know much about the novel, and I purposely I didn't want to know, read a summary or anything. But I do know that it's a huge, huge novel. Like it's over 400 pages, unless I'm mistaken. So what is sort of like your process like in terms of like, where do you even begin? Because I think, when we're talking about adapting a novel for the screen, like sometimes the work sort of dictates like what it wants to be in terms of structure. And then other times it's like you just have to like figure it out and your brain could literally explode. So can you talk about like what your entry point was and if it changed, like at all?
It's funny. I think because this experience was a book I read, it wasn't like an open writing assignment, or like I've written on other television shows that were adaptations like The Handmaid's Tale, 13 Reasons Why. I've adapted some real people whose life story that they will never be seen, but I've written many scripts for a couple people whose lives I've adapted, and it's very challenging. But because the book spoke to me immediately, and I saw it as a series, and it's the medium, it's a different medium. And some really good examples of the differences, you learn, because everybody knows by now if they've watched episode 6, that Eleanor Bennett, who is this woman in her 70s in Southern California, when she dies and she has 2 adult children, one of the first things she tells them is that you have a sister. That is probably within the first 20 pages of the book. That is the mid-season turn in the show. I knew that immediately because I wanted people to take this journey to meet our main characters and to really get to know them before we are throwing in a completely different person into the mix. And when you're reading a novel that jumps back and forth point of view, sometimes it's a recording, sometimes we're in Mabel's world, sometimes we're in Byron and Benny's world, and their flashbacks and stuff that's completely unrelated to the present day story. You can do that with a novel. With TV, this is TV. It's premium prestige. Very cinematic television. But I want people to keep watching. I want people to have the experience that you had, which is like, wait, what? Like, I got to keep watching without compromising character or story, without making it cheap thrills or anything like that for this particular story. So I just knew, I was like, no way. Nobody needs to know about this daughter. We need to get to know this little girl's journey across the world, running for her life. Like, that's because I'm imagining myself listening to my mom's recording. The moment she says, you have a sister, I'm like, Google, like, I know her name, where's she? I'm calling her. I'm not, sorry, Mom, I'm not gonna listen to the rest of your story. Got to know this, present day story first. So that really dictated that the structure for me was the discovery of this daughter in the middle of season 1. And it also dictated, the story that we can keep telling beyond season 1, because there's so much about this daughter that we will not learn until we go beyond the season, because there's not enough time. I wanted to honor the other mysteries and the other arcs. So for me, it was just, because I've been doing this for a while, it's just like in you at a certain point, TV. And because I loved it so much and it was such a visceral reading experience, I just knew that particular point. And I knew that I wanted to heighten it genre-wise in because it's a murder mystery wraps in a family drama, as we say with the book. The book is much more of a family drama. And we're bringing the murder mystery element of it a little more to the top, I think, on the show, where we're returning to the murder from different characters' points of view. So we're clearing suspects, but we're not doing it in like a procedural sort of way. So I want that was intentional, because I wanted this to be something people were talking about and people were binging, and though people are excited and leaning in and like really participating in the uncovery of all the details and the secrets. So for this one, just because I loved it so much, it just was in me and I was so excited and I couldn't stop. Sometimes it's much harder. Most of the time it's like, it is beating your head against your computer screen, for me at least.
Well, I mean, I love that, in the book, you learn about the sister 20 pages in, but you knew that was too soon in terms of the show. And that also, like, we really get to spend so much time with Covey as a young girl and getting to know her and her relationships. But what you talked about, just like the structure and the timelines and the jumping back and forth and all of the different devices, if you will, I felt like they were so seamless, just in terms of switching point of view, between the narrator, the present day, listening to the audio tape, it just all felt so seamless. And there were moments where I would just rewind and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm so excited for the audience to kind of, once they get past, episode 6, it's I had to rewind. I was like, holy, wait, what is happening? So there were a lot of just sort of twists and turns and surprises that I was just like, how did they do that? So just, yeah, I'm just like so impressed by that. For the first season, did you always know that it would be 8 episodes? And like, how did you arrive at like that number?
I think I pitched, because when I pitched the show to sell it, I had it's basically pitched the Bible. I mean, I spent a long time. I had to figure it out because I have anxiety like every other creative person on the planet. And I don't really love being asked questions I don't have the answers to. So I want to just have everything and just be like, here you go. There's no Q&A portion of this pitch. Like, here's the story. I think it was 8. I think the whole time it was 8. And I was just looking also, the story felt like it dictated 8. Even though sometimes when I watch episode 7, it's like such a miracle of an episode where it's like, okay, we'll do the rest for next season. Because it's so amazing. It's such a great episode. Everybody loves it so much. Everybody loves the script. Everybody loves the story. It's gut-wrenching. Mia's astonishing. Yes. It did such a great job.
It's directed so well.
It's so amazing. And it's so hard because it's setting up, it's a new world. So Zetna had to world build. I mean, we world build a couple times in the show, which is so fun. But I think it was always 8, and all the transitions, everything we're talking about, all the reason they are seamless is so planned. It's on the page, script, writer's room, meetings with every single department head. The transitions are so important because I didn't want to, there were some suggestions about making things a little more obvious. That's just not what we're doing here. I'm putting like chirons and spelling things out more in voiceover that didn't need to be spelled out to hold the audience's hand. So that was all intentional. And random 8. I think 8. Yeah, I think that was the right number because I was looking at other comparable series that are on Hulu, Netflix, Max, and it felt like 8 was a magical. 7 or 8 was a good number.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like you really there were things that you were like, okay, I know it's this, I know it's that, and that feels really special. Which is why I resonated when you said, as soon as you read the manuscript, you were like, I'm the only person that could do this, because my mentors always tell me, like, you make the project that you can't stop thinking about. And it sounds like this was that for you. Zetna, I would love to kind of talk about the directing. And so you're coming in, you enter the series as director in episode 7, right? Which no one, well, except for us, has seen yet. But can you talk about, so you did 7 and 8, right? Which is, sort of the end. And I feel, as a director, the final episode of a series is as important as the pilot. So can you talk about, without, like giving anything away, just coming into the world in episode 7, how you had to essentially like build a world? Like, what was your process coming into the story? I'm sure you had read all the scripts before, probably seen the episodes if they had been finished, but can you talk a little bit about, your process?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've already hit on it. For me, also, I'm a research and a prep nerd. I feel like I can never do enough. So it's also my happy place. I just want every piece of material I can get my hands on in order to kind of dive into the world that's already in progress, and then makes me feel comfortable, like I can then hopefully do my best work. So yeah, I read everything. Obviously, I read the book, I read every script, every draft of every script, countless conversations with Marissa Jo and department heads. And it's interesting because you're hitting on so much of, I think, what makes this story in particular really special. And the execution was, she's right here, but fearless, like, leader. Like, Marissa Jo leaves no stone unturned. And when I say that, it's so you're talking about what's so important, right? It's like this beginning, middle, and end from the first episode to the 8th episode. And then all of the twists and turns within that. And then the nonlinear fashion, the different timelines across the globe. That's one human who has it all in her head and then has to really be able to communicate with all of us. And for me as a director, right, a big part of my job is to have those conversations and to talk about story over and over and over again, and to then translate the scripts and to really tell that story. But what's amazing is having a collaborator, a writer, a showrunner, an executive producer who really is helping you to do your best work. So for me, when I got 7 and 8, I mean, it's the gift, right? 7 to me is extraordinary. It's a story that I got a chance to tell. That story is not lost on me. Mia is a revelation. Just anyone who wants to like see an actor, like you'll never believe how she's so young. She's so brave. Her work, like, I mean, I've worked with many actors now who've, Academy Award winning actors who older, like she's done some of the most beautiful work I've ever seen, like ever had the privilege to direct. So I think a lot of that is like also set, the cast is there. Everyone's really brave, ready to play. So for me, it's creating a safe space, getting all the information from Marissa Jo, for me disseminating the information to all of our department heads, and then hopefully inspiring everyone that we have to rise to the occasion. Like we can't let Marissa Jo down. We can't let the script down. We can't let the story down. We can't let Charmaine down. We can't we have to all rise to that occasion, and then try and everybody like do your best work, because it's a little bit, it veers off again into its own world. So we need to build on what we had, but then really kind of create a new world, and hopefully audiences just are glued and watch her journey in 7. And then 8, you're right. Doing a finale is very stressful as a director, because if it's a limited series, you're kind of completing a story. If it's an ongoing series and you're completing the first chapter, but then, ideally launching the second chapter, a lot of pressure, a lot of kind of effort into where that story is going to go. Sometimes we don't know all the details of where it's going. So what are you teasing? Who are you setting up? It's, again, a lot of conversations and a lot of trying to be on the same page so that you're hopefully telling that story in the best way you can.
Yeah. Well, I'm also one of those directors. I do this in features too, where I love an open ending or like a tease, and people get really upset about it. But I feel like, when you get to the final episode of this season, I felt intrigued, but also satisfied, because I'm like, oh, this is okay. This is like sort of setting up, the beginning of the next season. So I felt like it was just like really bittersweet. And I just have to say, like, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in this process of season 1, because the cohesiveness that you're talking about, I can tell just by the way that the show feels and looks, and just across every sort of element, how much conversation was happening, just like and it spans so many decades, but like the visual language, the performances, the older actors playing, the older versions, and what I mean? Like everything feels so just cohesive and just like seamless in terms of performance, the cinematography, the jumping between timelines, the color palette, like the way that we move from this very warm, rich, Caribbean environment to then this very cold and like gray Scottish town, you know what I mean? Where the character's arc is in a much different place, I was just like really just enveloped in all of those details. But you brought up something that's like my next question, which is to talk about the cast. And I actually have worked with Jade Ashete, was in my feature. And so I was so delighted to see her playing Covey's mother, her young mother. But talk about casting, right? Because this is a big undertaking. I mean, you've got to find, actors who can play these characters in multiple, phases of their lives, and they all have to feel sort of like it's the same character. Like you don't want the audience to be distracted by, oh, this is a different actor. So talk about, I would love to hear how you even begin to approach that.
This one was a beast. I mean, there's a ton of characters a lot of these actors have to use accents of the time period, but also the location. And Covey's accent, will change where is she, how old is she, how long has she been living in the United States. So that is also an adjustment. Is she, 16 in Jamaica, or is she 25 in Orange County, And so that, just finding people who are excited to do that, who were capable of doing that, who were also incredible actors, and then ethnic authenticity was very important to us as well. And these are very unique characters. We have a Chinese immigrant living in Jamaica. We have a main character who is half Jamaican, half Chinese. We have a character who is white passing, but is Chinese, Jamaican, Scottish. Like, it was an absolute beast. And Aisha Coley, our casting director, and Vanessa Toll, her associate, I worked with them on Women of the Movement. They move mountains. Aisha is a genius. She knows everything. She sees every play across the world, knows everyone. And I wouldn't have Mia. We wouldn't have anybody. Like, we wouldn't have these people. Obviously, I've worked with Glenn Turman and Adrienne Warren before, so that was really easy. Those phone calls made to them and begging them to do these, be part of an ensemble. But it was very challenging, but I mean, look at it, it's worth it. I mean, look, they're amazing. We're nothing without this cast, and I'm just so grateful. Just all I can say, the detail, international search, many people, many tapes watched, many callbacks, chemistry reads, many months of service.
I love it. I love it. And Zetna, I would love for you, I don't know how you feel, but I just get so excited when I see actors on screen that I've never seen before. And like, I love, it must have been such a delight to work with a casting director who is like going outside of the box, is straying away from the list, the Hollywood list, and is like seeing plays and finding actors that are, just in places where you would not think to look. I think that is just so special. Zetna, what was it like for you working with these actors, just of every age?
Oh, I mean, I completely agree in terms of the casting approach. And I actually know Aisha from even way back. I knew her in New York when I was an intern at Tribeca Film Center of many years ago. And so everything that Marissa Jo said about her is 100%. She's incredible, and all the casting directors and associates, everyone who worked on it. But yes, I think it's about, for me, when casting and you find, you're always looking for the best actor for the role, right? You're always searching, and it's stressful. I find like I want to tear my hair out when I'm casting sometimes, because especially when you're not in person anymore a lot, you can't, do the things that we are usually do in a room together. So it can be very challenging. And then, like Marissa Jo was explaining, we have to think about, okay, if we already have the younger person cast, then you have to really buy when you see that older actor playing that same character decades later, that it's the same human. So all of those things then add the layers to getting the right person. Very difficult. So when I watch and I know what we went through, I'm just so thrilled that these actors came on board and that they exist. Another element is, obviously, we historically have not had the same opportunities that other actors have had. And so, when you're thinking about these lists and you're thinking about really searching for actors, people have to really put in the work. Everyone has to because they're out there, we are here, but we just haven't had those opportunities. So we might not have the name, but we have the talent, we have the drive, we have the ability to do the work. So I think for me, working with actors who, are theater actors, or who haven't done the massive movies that we may not know, but their talent is so huge. And to be able to help in any way I can, either it's guiding or stepping back, or, having those conversations, or anything I can do when I'm working with actors is what I do. That's my favorite part of the whole process. So it's a joy.
I love that. Okay, so I have time for one more question before I'm going to open it up to the audience. But I want to talk about a through line that, there are many themes obviously, and we could spend an hour talking about, all of them. But one that really kind of just struck me right away was this theme of motherhood, and just how the main characters are both mothered, right? From being very young, but then also how they have to mother themselves and each other. Like even, in Covey and Bunny's relationship, there's an aspect of their friendship where they are mothering each other, especially after Covey's mother leaves. But I would love for you to talk about, I think it can be very hard when you have characters who hurt your main character, and yet as an audience member, you can still empathize with that character, right? You don't, I felt like as much as there were good and bad choices being made, I never disliked any of the mothers, even, Eleanor as an adult, like there was a moment where like, her grown kids, like Benny and Byron, get this tape. And I was just like, wow, like you are terrible for like withholding all these secrets for their entire life. But then as the story unfolds, it's like, I still found myself loving this character and sort of understanding the why. So can you talk about like how you did that? How did you pull that off?
I never think about an audience loving a character. I think about them empathizing with them, understanding their choices, whether they agree with them or not, and believing their behavior. And I think most of that comes from just, being in a writer's room. Like, I start out, I'm alone for a really long time. And then I bring other people in and then more and more, and it's like 1,000 people at the end of it now at this point, but it starts with me and the writers, and it's all female writers room. We all talked about a lot of stuff in our lives and our relationships with our mothers, our fathers, our siblings, our children. And there's none of us are perfect. Even like when you really start thinking about your experiences and the secrets that you keep from the people that you love the most. I had the same, I revealed a secret I've been holding from my parents for 9 years this summer because of Black Ink, because of the show. Okay, I'm like, how am I going to tell these people to call your mom after watching the show and tell her something that you need to tell her without doing it myself? And I did, and it was totally fine. And it was no reason for me to keep it for 9 years. But anyway, I think it was just really the conversations, really hard conversations that we have. And it's just telling the truth. And motherhood, for me, every single thing I've ever done is about motherhood. Every show I've ever written on, I write about motherhood. I'm a mother. It'll never be my episode of Handmaids. There's a 5-minute scene about motherhood. Like there's just like a speech about motherhood. I love it. It is probably because I'm adopted. There's probably like a bunch of Freudian things we could dig out to say, why am I writing about motherhood all the time? But I think it's okay. No mother's perfect. But I think we have to just tell the truth, and we don't always have to understand in the moment why our mothers do the things that they do. But I think it's just asking those questions of why and who they were before they were our mothers. They were people before they became mothers, and who were those people, and that will inform a lot of the decisions that they make as mothers.
And I love when we can find those things that kind of continue to show up in our work. Like that's really, really special. Okay, so I'm gonna start bringing in some questions from the audience. So can you elaborate on, did you have collaborators in the Caribbean that like when you filmed there, both in development, during production, like can you talk about those contributions and how you incorporated them into the production?
Absolutely. And Zetna, please jump in if you have anything, if I'm leaving anything out. But Charmaine Wilkerson, the author, is an executive producer. And then we have Jamaican producers on the ground, and we have a Jamaican crew, and we filmed in Jamaica. So we had a Black Cake consultant a Chinese woman who is Jamaican, living in Jamaica, to help us make sure that we make the black cake the right way. I mean, we were in Jamaica, so I mean, it was we were just immersed. We lived there. We were filming there. They were not shy about letting us know if we got anything wrong or if we needed to like fix something up. So yeah, I mean, one of our costume designer, I think a lot of the things she did with period, sourcing the period clothes specifically for Jamaica, I think she looked through, people's photo albums, who lived in the community, and, what were they wearing, because the clothes, we wanted them to be, as vibrant and as cool. We wanted Covey and Bunny to be like cool teenage girls, but what do cool teenage girls in 1960s Jamaica look like? Like, what do they wear? And like, so we wanted to just look at actual photo albums. So absolutely, we were there. They are there. They are part of the show, and we couldn't have done it without them.
That specificity is so important, I feel, with a show like this. And I love, again, that you were intentional about, ways to bring that authenticity to the project. Can you talk about setting it up and what your process was for pitching? Some folks in our audience are curious about like the time that it took, and just sort of getting the rights. And then how did Oprah come in, and what was that conversation?
So it's been 3 years from the moment I read it to now. There was a delay. The book wasn't even published, but I was literally about to go film my first show as showrunner when I read the book. But I knew, I was like, the moment people start reading this, someone's gonna get it. So I just signed an overall deal actually with Capitol Entertainment. I presented it to them as my next project. I said, I want this whenever I'm done filming Women of the Movement. I would like to get the rights to this and pitch it. So I was on the phone with an executive at Harpo Films vetting a director for Women of the Movement, and she said, have you read this book that's going around called Black Cake? And I was like, yeah, I'm getting the rights to it. And she said, no, we're getting the rights to it. And I was like, pause. And so we all got together. So I have a relationship with Emily Rudolph and Carla Gardini at Harpo Films. I adapted a book for them that will never be made many, many years ago, but we parted as friends, and we all got on a Zoom, Harpo Films and Capitol Entertainment. Me talked about, what I wanted to do. Wasn't a specific pitch, just like, what do I want? What kind of show do I want to make? And where do we think we want to take this? It was literally on like January 6th, I think, the day of the table read for my first show, the day of the insurrection. We had this meeting, 2021, and we all seemed like we just got along. We had the same hopes and dreams. And then 2 months after right when I wrapped post on Women of the Movement, I said, okay, I'm going to focus. I'm going to write the pitch. I'm just going to be in my office, let me just read the book 50 times, do all my note card sort of puzzle, beautiful mind stuff, and paste all over my wall. Then I presented it to the studio in Harpo Films, and they had a few notes, and then we took it out to the town, and there were two, it was between Netflix and Hulu, and I had a relationship with Disney through ABC as the same, executives there, and so I went with Hulu, and now here we are. I hope that helps people. But I pitched a very detailed pitch, very, very detailed. The characters, I remind them, even though they've read the novel, most of them, if you're pitching to someone, remind them what the story is, because it's the biggest thing happening in your day pitching to them, but they're like hearing 55 pitches. So reminding them the story, images obviously help with deck, especially directors know this. Directors do this more than writers do, having a really great deck to show the worlds and the time travel and the actors who are your dream cast, to get them excited. I did all of that. And I put a lot of my personal, everything I pitched, even the Emmett Till story, I always start with why me, why I'm the right person to not only adapt the book, but to be the showrunner, to be the last creative line, like the last creative stamp on everything, to just to talk about my personal experience with the material, and what I would bring to it. So I always do that with everything I pitch, no matter what the genre, or if it's a true story or whatever, just so that they know this isn't just a job for me. It's, it's a commitment, a years, 24 hours a day for years, so that you're in it. So that's my approach.
And when you pitched, did you have the first season? Did you break it? Had you broken it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the scripts, but I knew every cliffhanger that you see on this television series on Hulu is exactly what because we have the book, but I structured it because I had to know the structure to even begin. Because there's a book that you could just, it's no paint by numbers. It's not like you put the text into final draft and all of a sudden like 8 scripts pop out. I wish. But I had to really pitch why it was my specific take and the different points of view and the jumping back and forth and accelerating some of the present day story, what I was going to omit, what I was going to hold for the next season. So I wanted them to really see, like, I got a plan, like when we're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I love that. Can you talk about the process of choosing the key collaborators, the directors? Obviously you and Zetna had a relationship, but I'd love to hear, the audience wants to hear about, how you built the team.
With Zetna and I worked together 10 years ago, my 3rd episode of television ever written as a baby staff writer. And for me, was lucky I got to run set when I was a staff writer. My first episode, like day 2, they're like, peace out, you're good. And so I was on set by myself. So when I work with Zet, I was really lucky. My first 3 directors treated me with respect, were really, truly collaborators. And every time I'd run up to give Zetna a note, she'd already just like given the note. It was like, okay, like it was like I could like relax, And then we just had the same sensibilities. And Zetna's so great with actors, the energy, so calm, so thoughtful, so smart, only wanting truth. So I just knew, like, whenever, every time I was on a show, I'd be like, hey, see if she's available. She never is. Like 13 Reasons Why, Shots Fired, Handmaid's Tale. Like, I'm like, hey, I know someone. She's always busy. So we just were like, okay, we will work together at some point when it's the right project. And this was the right project because Zetna also has, which she can talk about or not. Like she has more of a connection to Jamaica than I do. Like she knows about she knew about the patties and everything, where to go and what to do. Like I didn't know anything. She was educating me when we were there. But so it was about sensibility. Do we want the same things? And so it wasn't just because we got along and she's cool. It was like, do we want the same things? Do we want to tell the truth? And my cast is so important to me. I'm so protective of them. And so whoever we bring on, I just need to feel like they're safe. We had a very, very young lead actor who had to carry this series and go through an absolutely insane journey. And I just wanted to make sure whoever was part of the team was going to take care of Mia. For everybody else, it was very traditional because I know a lot of directors. I've worked with a ton of directors. I have lots of friends who directors. I have movie directors, TV directors, lots of them. And I was hoping, I always like to just work with people I know, but I had to, not everybody's available all the time. So I had to just meet new people and get out of my comfort zone and trust. And it starts with, watching their material, especially if it's like an indie or something that I can watch that is not an episodic. If I don't know them or haven't worked with them and just know what their vibe is going to be like on set and how I can communicate with them. And then watch the material, I'm like, oh, okay, I could see like you'll bring something that I like people who are different, actually, who will bring something that I don't bring that'll elevate the script. Especially the script is so heavy and emotional. And I liked bringing edgy directors too, who will slice through that if it gets a little sweet. And I know that they will just inherently. So with Natalia, I met her, she had directed some Handmaids episodes and she had indie film. I thought her films were really cool. I met her, we really got along. She had cool ideas, vibed, very simple. And everybody else, it was similar. Like it was referral, watching their work and then just meeting them and like, because like Zetna said, it's so much, the best shows, I think, it just has to be so much communication to get the execution, because it's very hard to get all this stuff on screen. It's hard to like survive like tropical storms and all the things that we went through. So just communication, and honesty. So when I felt like that was there, then we all, then I present who I would like to the studio, the network, and the other producers, and then it becomes business.
There is a question for you, Zetna. What does it look like in real time in a room to navigate working with other directors to maintain consistency in the look and feel across the episodes?
That's a great question. I think again, it starts with usually the showrunner and the whatever you call the lead director and all the department heads really understanding what the vision is, right? And so when you have, for me, I treat the scripts like, the scripts are the most important tool for me as a director, in terms of all the clues and the tone and what story are we trying to tell. And then when you're building your visual language and you're building your world and you're making those choices in collaboration, right, with the showrunner and then with all the department heads, you really want to make sure that all the directors that are working on the series are really in tune with that and really understand it and get it. And for me, it's always, if I'm doing a pilot or if I'm doing the finale, if I'm doing multiple episodes, I love creating an environment for everyone to come and play and to swing for something. Like, I think similar to what Marissa Jo is saying, like, I want people who are bringing something different, who understand the world that we're all creating together and love it, feel passionate about it, understand it in some really sort of, intentional way, but who are going to bring something new and interesting. I want the best idea, the most brilliant thing. If I didn't think about it, I'm like a kid. I get really excited when the ideas are coming and they're wonderful. If it's from the cinematographer or the editor, when you're in post, or the other directors, and you want, everyone needs the framework, and then it's how to stretch within that. And I think you want directors on the series to really come like excited about working and excited about the story that we're all telling and wanting to try something and wanting to, if it's cutting through the saccharin, or if it's elevating something that, or if it's expanding on, one beautiful line that Marissa Jo wrote, and how are you really going to tell that 5,000 different ways to do it? But is someone really so excited and passionate that they're going to bring their A game? So I think you want the directing team to be in communication, but also to be sort of, excelling and doing everything they can to do their best work.
Okay, last question. Marissa Jo, you answered this a little bit, but I want to just sort of have you elaborate. So the best part of adapting a story that you haven't shared yet, but then also you haven't told us what was the hardest, most difficult part about this adaptation?
So many hard things. This is the hardest thing I've ever done personally. I mean, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically. I was on multiple time zones. So I was, I think the hardest thing, it's not going to be an exciting answer because it's not a creative sort of hurdle, but I'll try and think of that while I'm talking, is we filmed Jamaica, Wales, London, Italy, Southern California, so 5 countries. When we're filming in Wales, after we moved from Jamaica, we did all of Jamaica top. We shot all of Jamaica out first, and then go to Wales where our sound stage is. And so I'm on LA time zone 8 hours earlier with editors for previous episodes. I need to be on set. I need to be talking to a costume designer. I need to be prepping with the next director. I need to be casting. I'm rewriting the final episode. That it was very hard. I've not recovered like physically from it still. I don't sleep. I have permanent bags under my it's like I still don't know how I'm gonna be a person at the end of the year. I mean, it's been a while now. I haven't filmed since February. But anyway, that was the most challenging part. And so, but I've learned what I'm going to do next time. I have to have more, to delegate more. I have to figure it out because I just can't do it because then something will go, but I just care so much. I care about every tattoo, every wig, every costume, every frame. I care about it. And so that's why I felt like I had to be there. I think the casting was very difficult. And then the elements were we want being in Jamaica was so important, and in the hands of another studio, they probably would have said no, shoot in the Dominican Republic, shoot in Puerto Rico. Those were definitely options. Those places were scouted, beautiful places, but we wanted Jamaican people should be on screen and behind the cameras. We wanted to be there. We wanted to be in the sea. We wanted to be in the sea that Charmaine's writing about, the beaches that she's writing about. It was really important. It was very hard because we brought a massive production to a very small community. It is not the Jamaica of the cruise ships and the mega resorts. There are none of those there. We were in Portland and Port Antonio. And so that brings a lot. It's the roads and the weather. We don't know if there's going to be a lightning storm. So all of that, those were the most challenging things. But I love writing. I love editing. I love being in my little box. Those are the best parts. And just seeing people love it. And when Charmaine, I'll say my favorite part, when Charmaine came in to do a shoot with me after she had watched the first 3 episodes. She didn't say any words. She had a mask on. She just looked at me. I could see her eyes, and she just went. And I was like, okay, that's all. I wanted her to be happy. I would have been devastated if she wasn't proud. So I love this book, and I would never acquire material only to dismantle it. So that was my favorite part, was seeing Charmaine, her enthusiasm, her being on set for scenes that we had expanded on from the book. Best part, and then challenging, all those crazy production things that I shared. What about you, Zetna? What's the most challenging thing for you? Sorry, can Zetna say?
No, I love everything that you said, because in my mind, I'm reliving all of the challenges.
Yes.
Just remember, we had this insane, really, really important Zoom with Oprah and all the producers and everything. And then remember, massive storm, everything shut down.
Wi-Fi goes out.
So yeah, I relived everything, all of the challenges. Yes, you stated them absolutely clearly.
Well, thank you both. This has been amazing. I feel like I'm gonna, message you separately because I have so many more questions. But just thank you for the work. Thank you for the attention to detail, for the care. It was just felt so deeply. And yeah, I can't wait for people to see episodes 7 and 8. And if you haven't watched yet, everyone, please watch. And just congratulations on the show. And now I'm going to invite Andrea back to sort of give some final words and thank everybody.
Thank you so much for leading that beautiful conversation. I feel exactly the same way. I have 100 more questions I want to hear answered. But I really appreciate your thoughts and taking the time to lead this beautiful convo with Marissa Jo and Zetna. And to the two of you, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. We're such fans of Black Cake at WIF and ReFrame. We want to encourage everyone in the Zoom and watching this online to check out the show streaming on Hulu. And we just wish the very, very best for all that is to come for all of you and the exceptional work that you're doing. So thank you for your leadership, your voices, and your talent and your time. So thank you so much. And we will catch up with all of you soon to the Black Member Forum joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So beautiful to have this space today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.